What's the state of play for the 11 clients you had when we last spoke?
They are at the airport in Atlanta. They left the detention facility this morning at 1:45 or so on buses provided by Hyundai. Rather than ICE, they were released without going out in handcuffs, which was apparently the main hangup for not departing on Wednesday. And they all can come back to the United States. Um, this is weird. It's weird because why are they leaving if they can all come back? Generally speaking, ICE will tell you, oh, they all took voluntary departure. Voluntary departure is a legal thing. I mean, it's a statute that says if you leave, generally you're free to come back, but you do certain things when you take voluntary departure. You say, I agree that I violated the law, but you're going to let me come back with a new visa. But these folks don't need a new visa. So it's not really voluntary departure. It's more of a legal fiction. And I don't want to say an ICE cover up, but it's certainly a glaze on the cake, so to speak, of ICE's errors here in detaining these innocent Koreans and Japanese folks for the last 6 days.
What process led to the release of your Korean clients?
Oh, I think the president of Korea calling President Trump is what led to the release of these individuals, as well as the 3 or 4 Japanese that were also detained at the same time. This would not have happened without direct intervention abroad. We would have obviously gone to court eventually and gotten a court order and had these guys released, but they would have been in custody for weeks and weeks longer. So the direct intervention was absolutely essential as part of this. And I'm sorry it took that, but it was absolutely necessary. An interesting thing happened yesterday. The foreign minister came to America on the plane and went to DC to meet with the Secretary Rubio. And the American readout of that meeting didn't mention the Hyundai plant, which is odd since that was the reason the foreign minister came. But the Korean language readout was absolutely all about the Hyundai plant, including stating that President Trump had given a direct order to ICE to release these individuals and ensure that they could come back to the United States. It's no surprise that the American readout didn't include that because that makes you understand the massive error that ICE made here in detaining these individuals.
The ICE press release announcing the raid on Friday specifically mentioned that 300 Koreans were among the 475 people detained. But I checked the release today, and now there is no mention of the Koreans at all. What do you think is the reason behind that?
Oh, they went back and changed the release, the press release. What can I tell you? Somebody's got a problem on their job. Now, nobody ever gets fired in the Trump administration for arresting the wrong people. Under Biden, they might get fired, or other Democrat, but not under the Trump administration. They're just covering up them. They're just covering up the fact that they screwed up. They know they screwed up. As I said from the beginning, somebody on this raid made a spur of the moment decision. Let's arrest them now and sort it out later. I think a lesson has been learned here. Hopefully, that will carry forward. I also think it goes to the bigger issue. And the bigger issue is what can you do in the United States when you come on an S-B or a B-1? And I have received a number of calls, Rod, from around the world, from companies that provide these types of services in the United States that are very concerned about their employees who do come on B-1s occasionally or ESTAs occasionally for activities that are clearly within the scope of the B-1 and worried, will they be turned around? Will they be arrested by ICE? And all I can tell them is maybe, but probably not. Sometimes when ICE gets its can caught in the cookie jar, it just doesn't do that anymore. So my guess is from now on, if they encounter a B-1 guy at a job site or an S-B guy at a job site raid, they're probably just going to leave them alone and maybe just tell them to call them in for an interview later, which is what should have happened. Either you should call these guys in for an interview if you think they're violating the law, or you send somebody out to the site who can speak the language and discuss what is going on and see if they're within the scope of the authorized activities.
Now, how were they treated while they were detained?
Well, they all said that the first day was terrible. Of course, it was chaos. ICE detention center was not expecting these guys. They weren't prepared for them. So the first day was terrible. It's a jail. They treat you like it's a jail. You walk in lines, you're counted every day several times. They were in shared quarters. So they're very small cells, two people like you see in the movies. That's what this place is like. It's a jail. And so none of them said, I'm going to go back. And several of them said, I'm done. I'm not being, I can't trust America. I'm done, which is a giant problem for the companies because these are the best guys they have doing this absolutely required work pursuant to their contract. So I would imagine there's going to be a pretty substantial delay in the opening of this plant.
Did you get any indication that that would be the case? Like, what is the state of play of the project at this point?
So it's been shut down for a week. They're not just going to get on a plane and come back the next day. It's going to be several weeks or a couple months before any of them probably come back. I'm just not sure that Hyundai or its subcontractors have extra people who are good as these people doing this job. My guess is they're like every other company in the world. They have the right number of people, and they'll have to figure that out.
What does all this say about the administration's strategy of reshoring manufacturing?
Well, you can't reshore manufacturing unless you teach the Americans how to do the manufacturing with equipment that they can do the manufacturing with. And that, in fact, requires foreign workers. Oddly enough, I think President Trump understands this because he basically talked about this on Sunday at the same time he was talking about deporting illegals, right? But he clearly understands that these people have to come in. So I just don't think the enforcement arm of the administration understood this until this incident, because all they understood was you have to arrest 3,000 people a day. That's Stephen Miller's mandate, and how they didn't care how they did it. And they saw, I'd probably think, wow, I can get 10% just like in a couple of buses right now. Oh, let's make it happen. And I can guarantee you they counted those numbers for last week. I can tell you that they did. What it does, though, is it suggests that while the rhetoric is there, the action behind the rhetoric has not yet caught up.
Do you think the administration is serious about making it easier for companies to bring skilled workers to the US?
No, no, I don't. First of all, the administration can do nothing about that. Only Congress can do something about that. Because in the United States, Congress makes the laws. And the president enforces the laws, carries them out, executes them. Because of that, unlike other countries where maybe in like the UK, the Home Office would just make it up and they would change the rules whenever they want to, which is what they do regularly over there. Same thing in Canada. In the United States, only Congress can change this. And the last time Congress looked at our positive legal immigration system was 35 years ago in 1990.
And what's your advice for these companies in the future?
Well, what I've been advising clients is actually pretty simple. If you can avoid the B1 or the ESTA, you should. So if you can get somebody an E, if you can get somebody an L, if you can get somebody an H, that should be your first choice for most activities. But there are going to be things, look, I've got to send an executive over to negotiate a contract. Perfectly fine. That's a B1. But if you know you've got an installation coming up and these people have worked for you for a year, you should be looking at an L because they're clearly specialized knowledge workers, even though it's going to cost you a lot more money. Factor that into your contracts going forward. Look, I know I can bring the guys. The L visa is probably best suited for that. But it's going to require pre-planning because it's going to add a couple of months to the process. You're just not going to be able to say, Bob, get on a plane and go install this. You got to have an L. That's probably the best practice going forward.